Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Everyone's flooding in. Thank you all for being here today. It is July 16th. I have an update for you guys. I know that you're anxiously awaiting Jordan to get back, as we all are. Unfortunately, Jordan's mom did pass away yesterday. He is, excited to get back to us all, and we just send him our prayers. If you have his phone number, want to drop a line on our Facebook group, I'm sure he would love to hear from all of you. He's just feels so surrounded by everybody's prayers and blessings. So thank you guys for showing him support during this time. I wanted to make a quick announcement before we get started today about next week's Wellness Wednesday. If you have seen our calendar of events, we have a special guest coming next week. And we are, hold on one second, I had a pop-up come up. Jen Davis will be joining us next week. For those of you who do not know her, she is a very, very successful businesswoman, and she is one of Jordan's best friends and mentors, and she exudes happiness and joy from every pore of her being. And she's been, having a lot of conversations with Jordan through this transition. And one of the conversations they had was about, do you want to be happy or do you want to feel special? And so that's the conversation that we're going to be bringing to you guys next week between the two of them, and you do not want to miss it. So mark your calendars, same time, same place next week. So, all right, let's jump into this week's topic, the formula for happiness. This is something I'm really excited to talk about because for as long as time has been measured, really, we've all been chasing happiness, right? That's what everybody wants. And Aristotle says happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and the end of human existence. And so if people have been talking about happiness and what it means to be happy all the way back to Aristotle, like, why is our country becoming less and less happy? And that is a question that, I'm sure many of us have asked ourselves, why are we just not happy? If you Google happiness right now, there are thousands of quotes on happiness, right? You probably have a t-shirt or a coffee mug in your office right now that has something to do or some advice to be happy. Everyone seems to have found the answer, yet we are still more depressed than ever. So why are we becoming less happy? And so I want to preface by this conversation by saying I understand that mental health is a very big topic, and I do not want to pretend to have all of the answers. And I want to say that this is a very small conversation when it comes to the big picture of mental health. And if you have any mental health concerns, please talk to a doctor. This is probably not your answer. There are lots of things that play into your overall happiness, but this may be one of them. So we're going to start today with an exercise. I'm going to share my screen right here. What are the expectations? I'm sorry, wrong slide. How happy are you? So we're going to rank each area of our lives 1 through 10. 1 meaning I'm not really happy, 10 being I'm extremely happy in this area of my life. So why don't we just take a quick minute and rank 1 through 10 on each of these areas. All right, we are going to come back to this in just a minute. This leads me to the great formula that we are all here for today. And I know that you are all anxious to hear about what this formula is. And the key to happiness is when your expectations equal your reality. It's almost so simple, it can be missed. But when your expectations equal your reality. Some of you may have heard of this. It came from the Tony Robbins program, Creating Lasting Change, which we highly recommend you check out if that's something that you're interested in. He calls blueprint equals life condition. So you may have heard that formula before. But what this formula is saying is how you think your life should be going and how your life is actually going are the same, right? So when you have this formula in front of you and you find yourself in an area of discontent, you have two choices. You can either change your expectations or you can change your reality, right? So for example, say that you're overweight, that you are 30. I use this example because it's a simple one. You want to lose 30 pounds and you're very unhappy with the way that your weight is right now. You have two choices. You can either change the expectation, which is I no longer want to weigh 30 pounds less, right? Or you can change your reality. I need to change daily habits in order to get to the expectation that I want, right? So my hunt for happiness has been a little bit of a journey, I will say. Back in 2020, my business was booming and I was in real estate in Midland, Texas. For those of you who are not familiar with my backstory, I started out in real estate sales and was named the Rookie Realtor of the Year for the Permian Basin in Texas. And my business was just exploding. I started helping my friends, and then my friends' parents were coming to me. I was a referral based only business, and my odds were that I was going to be the number one real estate agent in the town, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, right? If I had continued on this trajectory. And something just wasn't sitting well with me. Every single time I had a conversation with my parents, I was like, someday when I live in Colorado or someday when I move here, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be happy when I have this or this or this. And my mom asked me a really, really important question one day. She said, Madison, if you made $1 million this year in real estate, would you be happy? And I thought about that and I took some time to think about it. And I came back to her and I said, you know what, Mom, I don't think I would be happy. And she said, this is probably the wisest thing that one of the wisest things she's ever said to me that I don't think I really understood until later in my life. She said, Midland isn't going anywhere. And if you decide to come back, you will be coming back to a different Midland. Now, what she meant by saying that is not that I would literally be coming back to a different place, but if I decided that when I changed my reality, that I actually did want to come back, that I would have different expectations of what Midland would be and what I would want from living in this place. And so I love this formula because it may not always tell you how to change something, but it will always tell you what needs to change. So we're going to use this formula like we did before, and we're going to use the questions that we just asked and answer the questions. What are the expectations that you have in each of these areas of your life. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do that, and we will come back in. And anyone that would like to share, I would love for you to share. Would anybody like to share what expectations they have in one of the areas of their life?
So
I can.
personal.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I missed your first name.
Madison. I'm sorry.
Madison.
I realized I never
that's okay. I
changed
missed it.
my name on here. I'm on Jordan's account.
No, I just missed when you introduced yourself, probably. So on my spiritual, that was lower than I wanted. And there I'll change my I'll change my reality versus my expectations. I want to find my new church home and become actively involved in church. So that's one where it's changing my reality versus my expectations.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course.
Anybody else?
I did personal. I did making more time for me. I kind of listened to everybody else around me. I'm doing my nails, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, I'm not doing any of that stuff. So making sure that I calendar in myself to make sure I have time, even if it's just taking a walk, or I've always wanted to learn how to knit. And so I need to put that on my calendar to schedule a signing up for a class and make it happen. So that's that.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So one thing that I have realized is that the distance between the number you wrote and the expectations which you have defined is the distance to your happiness. Because if expectations equaling reality is your happiness, it is very important that we take the time to identify the expectations that we have, choose if they are expectations we want to continue to hold, or make a plan to change our reality in order to get these into alignment. So I wanted to share an example that Jordan has shared in the past with a coaching client. So he had this coaching client who was so mad at his mother. She was not a present mom growing up. She was just not a good mom for him. And now that he had children, she was showing up as Superwoman, right? She was at everything. She was buying all the gifts. She was just showing up as Super Grandma. And this like really ticked him off because he was like, she was not this way for me. Why is she showing up differently for them, right? And so after a lot of discussion with him, Jordan got down to the fact that he really just wanted an apology from his mom. He wanted an acknowledgement that she had not been there for him growing up. And Jordan said, okay, so in order for you to be happy, you would like her to apologize, right? And he said, yes. And so she said, why don't you just ask her to apologize? Sorry, I was trying to think of how the story went. Why do you not just ask her to apologize? And he said, because I want her to just do it. I shouldn't have to tell her, right? How many of us have had those situations where we're like, I shouldn't have to tell him to do the dishes. He should just do them, right? And so that is an expectation that we have. And sometimes when we change the reality, he could easily change the reality and say, hey, mom, I need an expectation. I need you to apologize to me, right? That could change his reality, but he would not get the result that he needed, right? He needed to do what? Anyone? I can see you talking, David.
He needed to ask for what he needed from his mom.
Right. He needed to change the expectation he had around his relationship with his mother. And so that's exactly what they did. And his relationship with his mom definitely improved. So if we are looking at this formula and we have expectations and realities, we can change one or the other, right? There are two different types of expectations that I want to be aware of. We have our conscious expectations, and we also have unconscious expectations. So conscious expectations are the expectations that we are aware of, while unconscious expectations are the ones that we have formed or that we have been programmed with that we may not be aware of. So our unconscious expectations are constantly being woven into us through our atmosphere. You can look at the relationship you had maybe with your parents that probably created expectations that you have for becoming a parent. If you are part of a religious group, there are probably expectations that they have instilled in you that you may not be aware of. Schools, who you follow on social media. We talked a little bit about this last week when it comes to habits. Who are you allowing to control your 3D printer that's printing reality? So are we following people on social media that are programming our expectations? How many of us, and I can be guilty of it as well, are scrolling through Instagram and we're like, oh, they have that car, I want that car, right? Or, oh, they're such a happy family, I want to be that happy family. So I believe that this is one of the greatest reasons why our happiness is going down as a culture. And it's because we now have so many expectations installed in us, and we have no filter through which we are choosing which ones we want to install and which ones we want to let go of. So I have an exercise for you guys. If you want to do some work on what programming you may have in your life when it comes to the expectations. This was actually taught to me by one of the therapists that I went to when I was on this journey for happiness. And she told me to write down all of the titles that I have. So if you're a mother, father, sister, coach, employee, friend, if you follow a certain religious practice, and just list them out. Don't worry about what they say. Just list all of the titles of who you would define yourself as. And then what I would recommend you do is take one at a time. And the reason I tell you to take one at a time is because it can be very overwhelming to try to do all of them at once. But take one of them at a time and write, what does it mean to be a good sister? What are the expectations I have? What does it mean to be a good friend? So for example, I'm a friend. What are my expectations I have around being a good friend? Maybe I have the expectation that I check in once a week, that I know what's going on in their lives, that I'm present for important events that they have in their lives. And you just start listing out all of the expectations that you have around this title that you have, that you believe you are. And then what you do is you go through and you eliminate the ones that you no longer feel serve you. And then you can create programming around going back and reviewing these things. How well am I doing in these areas? How well am I at checking in once a week? How well am I at attending these big events? And that is going to, one, give you the benchmark for your happiness, and then give you a measuring of how close you are to that benchmark. So that is how you can take your literal happiness formula and turn it into reality. So I highly suggest you guys do that. I will turn that into a worksheet today and drop it in the notes in our Facebook group. So if you are wanting to go back and do that exercise, I will make sure to turn that into a worksheet for you guys today. Another thing that I want to mention is the idea that you may not always want to change your expectations. It may be a point where you really do need to change your reality. For example, if you are not in good health, you probably don't want to change your expectations of like, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to be healthy. I don't need to eat better. You probably do want to change that reality. And the suggestion I would give you, and is one that we talked about last week with habits, is until you change something you do daily, you will never change your life. You will hear me say that over and over and over again. It's one of my favorite quotes. And the reason is because your daily habits become your life. And if you cannot make time for a small incremental daily habit change, you can never expect to have the results that you want when it comes to changing your life. In the book, The One Thing by Jay Papasan and Gary Keller, they talk about finding your first domino. So if you want to change a habit, what is the smallest incremental change that you need to make in order to start a domino effect to change? So if you're trying to work out more, maybe it's, I want to set my workout clothes every night before I go to bed. Maybe that's your small domino. So find your first domino and make a change daily in order to change your reality. So I want to go back to the areas that we spoke about before. And I want you to take some time today and identify if you want to change your reality or if you want to change the expectation. If you want to change your reality, what is the daily habit that you are going to install in order to change this reality? Once again, if you want to change your reality, what is the daily habit you are going to install to change your reality? And if it's the expectation that you want to change, what is the daily mental practice that you are going to install to rewire your expectation? And I will share that exercise in that group if you would like to use that to help you. Any questions, comments before we end the call today?
Thank you, Madison. It was
Perfect.
great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, our team is here to help you if you have any questions as you're working through these exercises this week. Jordan should be back next week, we're hoping. And mark your calendars, tell your friends, Jen Davis will be with us next week. It's going to be incredible. So remember, as always, to be kind to yourself this week and live freed. We'll see you next week.